what on which the ulcer is lying. You can see only the floor. You cannot see the base. For example, if the ulcer is situating right over a muscle, you cannot see the muscle. You will see only the floor of the ulcer. But base is okay, maybe muscle, maybe tendon, or maybe it may be a bone also. Yeah. But base you cannot see. This is what the 4 parts of an ulcer. Okay, there are 5 important edges. This is very important. One is sloping edge. You can see this is the floor. The red color is the floor and the black color is the margin. And this orange color is that which is connecting the margin and the floor is the edge. If it is, this is called sloping edge. Sloping edge is common in healing ulcer. Okay. Then come to the next one. This is called punched out edge. See, it is vertical, just like you are punching something. Yeah. This is the vertical one. The edge is vertical one. And this happens in trophic ulcers, like see, diabetic ulcer. Yeah, it is common. Yeah, in diabetic ulcer and in gamma also. Gamma is syphilis, secondary syphilis. Yeah, that is what you are seeing here. Suppose if it is like this, the edge is like this. This is called undermine edge, undermining the skin. So this is very common in tuberculous ulcer, undermine edge. Okay, and sometimes you can see an edge like this, raised and beaded edge. Not only it is raised, bead-like. So you can see the bead-like one. So this is common in basal cell carcinoma or rodent ulcer. Raised, but it is beaded. Suppose if it is raised, okay, but it is everted also. Everted edge. This is very common in squamous cell carcinoma. So you must know these 5 types of edges, very important in ulcer. Okay, sloping edge, punched out edge, undermine edge, raised and beaded, raised and everted. These are the 5 types of edges. Okay, now we are going to the, now today there are no questions. Actually, I was having another one, but it is not opening. I don't know, some problem in that PDF format. So this is the old one I'm using. Here there is no question, no text, but there is no need for anything. So I am showing you 2 types of ulcer. What is the first ulcer and what is the second type of ulcer? This is one type of classification. Yeah, can you tell me what is this ulcer? What is the edge? Yeah, this
Granulation
is
tissue.
Yeah, this is healing ulcer. Yeah, correct. You are
One
seeing
is
granulation
healing
tissue.
ulcer.
Yeah, what is the type of
Healing
this
ulcer.
edge? Healing ulcer. What type of edge you will have?
Sloping.
What type of edge? Yeah, sloping edge.
Sloping edge.
If you carefully see, you can see 3 colors. At the center, you can see the pink color. Yeah, at the periphery, outermost layer, you can see the white color. In between the white color and the pink color, here it is not, seen very well. You can see a bluish tinge where there is growing epithelium. You are seeing that epithelium only will grow over this granulation tissue. Finally, it will cover the whole ulcer. So you will be in a healing ulcer. Typically, you will be seeing 3 colors: central pink color, peripheral white color, and in between you can see a blue tinge. This is a healing ulcer. Okay, what you are seeing here in this second thing, you are not seeing much of granulation tissue here. So what you are seeing here and what type of ulcer it is? It is not healing ulcer.
It's a gamma?
No, this is not gamma.
Callus ulcer.
Yeah, callus ulcer. What do you mean by callus ulcer? What do you
Callus
mean by
is
Yeah.
injury. Non-healing.
Yeah, non-healing ulcer.
And-
Very good.
Yeah.
Non-healing ulcer, you won't see much of granulation, granulation tissue. See the difference between the first ulcer and the second one. You are not, yeah, you are not seeing much of granulation, but instead you can see some slough also. What is a slough in an ulcer? What is slough?
Soft tissue.
Dead soft tissue is called slough.
Dead soft tissue.
Dead soft tissue. Dead bone is called what? Dead bone is called what? You finish, no, batch 40, you finish orthopedic already.
Vascular necrosis, osteonecrosis.
Yeah, no, dead bone is called what? What is, there is a technical term for that. Yeah, very good. Sequestrum.
Involucrum.
Yes. Involucrum is not.
Sequestrum.
Dead bone is sequestrum. Yeah. Okay, this is a non-healing ulcer or callus ulcer. That is what you are seeing in the second picture. Okay, we are going to the next one. This we have discussed recently last week. You are seeing some ulcer there. In which year? What is that ulcer? What do you think this ulcer is? Yeah?
Diabetic foot ulcer.
Diabetic ulcer. Totally you are totally wrong. What is this ulcer?
Venous ulcer.
Very good. Very good.
Venous
Why
ulcer.
Okay, why you are telling it is venous ulcer? Can you tell me?
The area.
Yeah?
It occurs at the gaiters area.
Gaiters area. Okay, what else you are seeing?
Gaiters area.
Okay,
Lipodermatosclerosis.
yeah, you are seeing the lipodermatosclerosis also. See the color change? Black color. What is the reason for that black color? Can you tell me?
Deposition of hemosiderin.
Hemosiderin. Very good. What will happen? What is the basic pathology in this varicose vein? What will happen? Which blood will get pooled around the ankle? Which blood? Arterial blood or no? Arterial blood or venous blood? Which will get pooled around the ankle?
Yeah.
Venous blood. So what you will have? Chronic venous stasis. Some of the blood, because there is not, I mean, very good venous return. Some of the blood which has gone up because there is problem in the walls, okay, it will come down and it will pool around the ankle. And that is why you are developing ulcer like this. What type of edge you will have in this ulcer? Venous ulcer.
Sloping edge.
Correct. It is sloping edge. So is it a deep ulcer or superficial ulcer?
Superficial.
Yeah. What do you mean by superficial? How superficial it is? It is not deep to which fascia? Not deep to deep fascia. Okay, right. Suppose if somebody is having an ulcer like this, if it is primary varicose vein, what treatment you will do? Primary varicose vein with this ulcer, what treatment you will do? Yes?
Surgical treatment.
Yeah, what is that surgery? That's what I am asking.
Trendelenburg operation.
Yeah, Trendelenburg operation. If it is perforated or incompetence, what will you do?
Multiple step avulsion.
Yeah, stab avulsion, or you can do some other surgery also. Cock and subfacial ligation. Okay, that's fine. So that is the treatment for varicose vein. This is varicose ulcer or venous ulcer. Suppose if it is the cause is not primary varicose vein, it is secondary varicose vein. Suppose, okay, imagine this patient's, cause for this ulcer is DVT. Then how will you treat? What surgery you will do? Hello? Suppose if it is secondary varicose ulcer, secondary
No
varicose
surgery.
vein, yeah, what surgery you will do? What
Surgery is not
surgery you will do?
indicated.
Yeah, what surgery you will do?
Conservative treatment.
Yeah, you should not do any surgery. That you have to tell. You should not do any surgery for secondary varicose ulcer. Yeah, you must do only conservative treatment. So what is the name of that conservative treatment? Can you tell me?
Bisgard method.
Bisgard method.
Yeah, Bisgard method. What is the mnemonic for that?
For me, A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that you remember. Okay. Now we are going to the next one. Okay, this patient, this is not the normal side. This patient is having this ulcer for, say, for 6 months, not healing. We are doing the dressing daily, but it is not healing at all. When you examine the ulcer, this is having an undermine edge. So what is the etiology?
Tuberculosis.
Undermine edge. Tuberculous ulcer. But for tuberculous ulcer, this is not the commonest site, not in the foot. Which is the commonest site for tuberculous ulcer in the body?
The neck.
Yeah, very good. Neck. So what are the 5 stages of tuberculous adenitis? Can you tell me? Tuberculous adenitis. Ulcer and sinus will form only at last. So to begin with, when the tuberculous bacilli is going and infected the gland, what will happen to that gland? What are the 5 stages? Yes? Tuberculous adenitis, tuberculous periadenitis, matting of the lymph node, liquefaction necrosis causing cold abscess, then collar stud abscess, and finally this collar stud abscess will burst outside and that will result in tuberculous sinus. Okay, you must know these 5 stages: adenitis and periadenitis, matting, cold abscess, collar stud abscess, and finally tuberculous sinus. Okay, suppose if your patient is having tuberculous sinus, I told you it is non-healing ulcer. How will you treat? Will you do only dressing? How will you treat a case of tuberculous ulcer? If you are just doing, if you are giving just antibiotic and dressing, it will never heal. So what is the proper treatment for tuberculous ulcer? Can you tell me? Hello? What is the proper treatment? Yeah? What is the proper treatment for tuberculous ulcer? What drug you have to give?
Anti-tubercular drug.
Yeah, unless you are going to give anti-tubercular drug, this ulcer will never heal. That you have to remember. Just by giving antibiotic and dressing, it will never heal. So that you have to remember. You have to give anti-tuberculous drug. Okay. Now here you are seeing one ulcer over the pressure point, over the calcaneum. Okay. What is this ulcer? Can you tell me? Patient is a diabetic. Okay. Now you tell me. What is this ulcer? Patient is having uncontrolled diabetic, and he has developed this ulcer over the bony point, pressure point, that is over the calcaneum. And okay, first picture you are seeing the ulcer, and second picture it starts healing. Yeah, because they are controlling the diabetic. Okay, it starts healing. So what sort of ulcer it is? What type of edge you will have in diabetic ulcer? Yes. What type of edge you will have? Yeah, punched out edge. Yeah, very good. Punched out edge. Yeah, punched out edge. Why these diabetic patients are developing this ulcer? What is the root cause? What will happen to the leg? Can you tell me?
Lost sensation.
Loss of sensation. Very good. That is the first thing. These patients, diabetic patients, will have what is called peripheral neuropathy. So over the glove and stocking area, there will be paresthesia. You won't feel the pain. Even if there is any pinprick, you cannot feel it. That is number 1 cause. What is the number 2 cause? There are 3 things in the pathology. Pathology of development of a diabetic ulcer. What is number 2 cause? What will happen to the blood vessel supplying? Blood vessel will get atherosclerosis. Yeah, very common in diabetic patient. Okay, blood supply is decreased. Number 1, nerve is, there is no nerve supply, the sensation is no sensation there. Number 2, blood supply is also decreased. What is the third cause for the development of the diabetic ulcer? all this tissue, no, it is laden with glucose. Lot of glucose will be there because it is uncontrolled diabetic. So that is also, it is not very conducive for wound healing. If the tissues are studded with lot of glucose, okay, wound healing won't happen properly. So these are the three causes for development of an ulcer in a case of diabetic patient. And usually this happens over bony prominence. So while we are walking, lot of pressure will be over that the calcaneum only. And that is why, because there is no sensation, decreased blood supply, and then the tissues are studded with glucose. These are the three reasons why these patients are developing these ulcers. Okay, how will you treat this diabetic ulcer? What you will do? Can you tell me? Number one, you have to control the diabetic. That is the most important thing. If it is uncontrolled diabetic, it will never heal. You have to control the diabetic. If you control the diabetic, automatically, okay, it will start healing. That is what you are seeing in the second picture. See the size of the ulcer. Slowly it is shrinking. It is healing because you have started proper treatment for the diabetic. Okay. What else you can do? Suppose in spite of controlling the diabetic, if it is not healing, you have to take care of macroangiopathy. That is the atherosclerosis and all. If patient is having any atherosclerosis, okay, you can start giving them pentoxifylline or xylostazone. That also you can give. And then the most important thing is peripheral neuropathy. For that, you can give B complex drugs. Okay, B1, B2, B1, B6 and B12 that you can give for the peripheral neuropathy. This is how you have to treat it. And sometime if it is still not healing properly, you can cover it with a skin flap, not with skin graft. Because in the foot, you should not put skin graft. Because if you put a skin graft, while you are standing, no, all the pressure will be over that point only. Skin graft won't take in the foot. So you have to put only skin flap cover. You have to develop a flap and you have to cover it, not with skin graft. This you have to remember. Okay, coming to the next case scenario. You are seeing something. The first picture is over the sacrum. This is the lateral view of your patient. You are seeing the sacrum. You are seeing a very big ulcer with slough. That black stuff is the slough. What is a slough? I told you. What is slough?
Dead soft tissue.
Yeah, dead soft tissue. Yeah, okay. Okay, dead soft tissue. And in the second picture, you are seeing some special dressing method. Okay, what is your diagnosis? After seeing the first picture, the patient is developing a big ulcer over the sacrum, over the bony prominence. What is your diagnosis? Can you tell me?
It's a bad sore, right?
Tuberculosis.
Very good, very good. It is bed sore. Or what are the other names for bed sore?
Trophic ulcer.
Trophic ulcer. Okay, it is a type of trophic ulcer. Okay, but what is the other name?
Pressure sore.
Yeah, bed sore is one thing. What is the other thing? Yeah, decubitus ulcer. Yeah, and pressure sore. Pressure, because of the pressure only these patients are developing this. So it is also known as pressure sore, decubitus ulcer, bed sore. All are the same thing. If you watch this patient, yeah, here you can see they have catheterized this patient. Are you able to see that yellow color catheter there? That is Foley catheter. They have already catheterized this patient already. So what type of patient you will catheterize and they will develop this bed sore? Common in which type of patients? Why they have catheterized? Can you tell me?
Immobilized.
Yeah, immobilized patient. Which patient will be immobilized? What neurological problem? Yeah, paralyzed. Patient is maybe a case of hemiplegia, paraplegia, or quadriplegia. They cannot move. They will be lying in the bed. And that is why it is called pressure sore. Lot of pressure over the bony prominence. Here in this case, over the sacrum. Patient is always lying supine on the bed. Okay. Patient is also having, if it is a hemiplegia or paraplegia, they won't have continence of urinary continence. There will be incontinence. They cannot control the urine. They'll be passing urine in the bed. Even the fecal matter also they will pass in the bed. So all these things will come into contact with this area that will aggravate this thing. That is why in order to prevent the bedwetting, they have already catheterized the patient. So whatever urine is coming there, it will go and it will be collected in a Euro bag. That is the idea. Okay. I told you this is a case of bed sore. How will you treat these patients? What will you do? The best thing is you have to,
We have to always change the position.
Yeah, no, the best treatment is prevention. You know the slogan, prevention is better than cure. So even before these patients are going to develop this sort of problem, you have to avoid these things. How will you avoid this? What type of bed you can use to avoid this? What type of bed you can use?
Water bed.
Water bed you can use. Okay, very good. But water bed, nowadays, what is the latest bed? Not even water bed. Water bed also, yeah, we used to use water bed also. But nowadays, what is the bed we are using nowadays? This is air bed. Air bed. The name of that air bed is called alpha bed. Yeah. I used to show this alpha bed to the students. My students, whenever I have the chance to have a alpha bed in the ward, some of your chronically bedridden patients, they used to put this alpha bed. I used to show, but now we are not going to the hospital. No, how can I show you that alpha bed? Okay, but if you see, there is a video. I have created a video on bed sore. Okay, now today after this class, okay, I will share that. That is decubitus ulcer. I made a video. You just go through it. Yeah, then you will learn everything about what is this bed sore, what is this decubitus ulcer. So you, in order to prevent that, you can use a alpha bed or air bed. Okay, and this is regarding the prevention. Suppose if your patient has already developed an ulcer like this, how to treat this one? If patient is having a slough, what will you do? You have to remove that slough. No, what is that called? Yeah, wound debridement. Wound debridement, or it is also known as sloughectomy. Yeah, you have to remove that slough. That is called wound debridement. So you have to, until you are getting bleeding in the ulcer bed, you have to remove all the dead tissue, because nobody can resurrect a dead tissue in the body. We cannot resurrect a dead tissue. If it is a dead, that means it is dead forever. You cannot, again, it cannot become alive. That is what is called resurrection. You cannot do that. Okay, so you have to do a thorough wound debridement, and then you have to do dressing. Okay, regarding the dressing, I told you this is a special type of dressing we do in any non-healing ulcer. Can any one of you, can you tell me what is this dressing? Yes? Yeah, maybe in that book they have not mentioned about the book which I have shared with you. I could have shared my video itself to you regarding this one. So this is what is called vacuum assisted closure or negative pressure wound therapy. Yeah, both are same. What you have to do? There is a big ulcer, no? That area you have to do a wound debridement. After wound debridement, okay, the ulcer will become very deep. That deep area, you can fill it with a foam dressing. This is what you are seeing. That black stuff you are seeing through that dressing, transparent dressing, is the foam. Black stuff. that you have to put over the ulcer, deep ulcer. And over that, you have to put a tube. Are you able to see a tube there? That tube you have to put. Then both this foam and this tube, you have to occlude it with a transparent dressing. You are seeing something that this is called, the trade name for this is called offside dressing. This you have to put. This is occlusive dressing, means even air cannot enter into that. So this occlusive dressing you have to do. You are seeing that the end of the tube is coming there. In that end, you have to attach a negative suction. So whatever air is there remaining inside, that will be sucked out and vacuum will be produced inside. Because it is airtight, no air can go inside. So there inside this wound, there will be vacuum. This vacuum is very conducive for wound healing and it will suck out all the fluid inside also. So whenever you are producing a vacuum around the wound, that is very, very conducive for wound healing. The wound healing will happen very fast. That is the idea. Okay. So you have to use usually this type of vac dressing. The plastic surgeon and even orthopedic surgeons are doing quite often for their non-healing ulcers. Yeah, this is regarding this patient. Today after this class, okay, I will share this video, this decubitus ulcer. Okay, this is another patient. You are seeing black coloration in the toe. Okay, here also you are seeing, but to begin with, these patients develop their ulcer in the tip of the toes. Then it progresses like this, the black color. Can you tell me the diagnosis? What type of ulcer it is?
Arterial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, arterial block.
Arterial.
Okay, correct. Arterial block. This is what I taught you last week in artery. So what type of ischemia it is? Acute or chronic?
Chronic.
Yeah, it looks
Chronic.
like chronic. Yeah, chronic. Okay, correct. Very good. So this is, what is this stage? You are seeing black coloration. So what is it? What is it? It is gangrene, no? Gangrene only you will see like black coloration. So what type of gangrene it is?
Dry gangrene.
Dry.
Yeah, it is dry gangrene. And what is the other type of gangrene?
Wet gangrene.
Wet gangrene or
gangrene.
moist, wet gangrene or moist gangrene. How will you differentiate dry gangrene from moist gangrene? What is the characteristic feature of dry
Line of
gangrene?
demarcation.
Line of demarcation.
Normal.
And then you cannot see any skip areas, unlike the moist gangrene, where you can see what is called skip areas. One area will be gangrene, then proximal to that normal skin, and again there will be gangrene. That is very characteristic of moist gangrene. Yeah. Okay. Dry gangrene and wet gangrene. Okay, wet or moist, both are same. The example for dry gangrene is, what is the etiology for dry gangrene? Arterial blood supply is blocked with what? What are the two etiologies? Etiology for
Thrombus.
chronic limb ischemia. Yeah, it could be atherosclerosis or TAO. Okay, both can cause things like this. Okay. Suppose if it is moist gangrene or wet gangrene, what is the cause? Here, not only the arteries are blocked, even the venous return is also blocked. That is moist gangrene. Moist gangrene. The commonest example is your diabetic gangrene is a wet gangrene. Okay, apart from dry gangrene, it looks like shrunken appearance or shriveled appearance. Whereas in moist gangrene, you can see a lot of edema because of wound infection also is there in moist gangrene. That is, lot of wound infection will be there in diabetic gangrene. So if you are having a patient with gangrene like this, what is the treatment? Gangrene means what? I told you just now, you cannot No, antibiotic. No. Amputation. Yeah, correct.
Amputation.
Amputation. Suppose if it is involving only the toe, what type of amputation you will do? Only
Ray
great
amputation.
ray amputation. Very good. If it is involving the whole of the foot, what amputation is best?
Sims amputation.
Ankle level.
Sims amputation and all we are not doing. We are not doing nowadays. You have to better do it below knee amputation, because if you are doing below knee amputation, then you can use a very good artificial limb nowadays. Those who are wearing the artificial limb, not only they can walk, they can run, they can climb a tree, they can climb stairs, they can even dance. Artificial limb. So that is why the best amputation today is below knee amputation. Don't go for Symes amputation. That is through the ankle. Previously, we were doing it because you won't have that stability while the patient is walking, because you have removed the whole of the foot. Yeah, only one stump will be there. You won't get the stability. It is better to do a below knee amputation for these cases. Okay, this is the arterial ulcer or gangrene, dry gangrene. Okay. Now we are coming one, not only the ulcer, it is a tumor also. You are seeing in the second picture a cauliflower-like growth in the skin. The skin edge is not only raised, it is also everted. So what is this? This ulcer. Yeah. This ulcer in the limb. Yeah, squamous cell carcinoma. So first picture is one squamous cell carcinoma where the primary ulcer is in the arm, upper arm, and there is secondaries in the axillary lymph node. Axillary lymph node is the secondary lymph node. So this is the primary. What type of edge you will have? I told you just now. What type of edge you will have in squamous cell? Yeah, it is raised and everted. Raised and everted. Okay. This looks like a cauliflower. In some cases, not just ulcer, you can see this is over the foot of the patient. Okay, the second picture. Okay. How will you confirm the diagnosis? You are thinking it is malignancy by looking at a thing like this. How will you confirm that this is squamous cell carcinoma? Yeah.
Biopsy.
Biopsy.
From where you will take the biopsy?
Edge biopsy.
Yeah, edge biopsy. Why not at the center of the ulcer? Why you are taking edge biopsy? If you take from the center of the ulcer, why not from the center of the ulcer? Why you are taking from the edge?
It might be pus and dead tissue in the.
Yeah, if you are taking from the center of the thing, you will get only dead tissue. You won't get the normal. So that is why you have to include the normal skin. Part of your biopsy is normal skin as well as the ulcer. Okay, actually, this is wedge-shaped edge biopsy. Somebody are telling wedge biopsy. It is not wedge biopsy. Actually, it is edge biopsy, but the shape of the biopsy is wedge-shaped. That is why the correct answer is wedge-shaped edge biopsy. That is what you have to do. Okay, now you have confirmed the diagnosis. What is the next thing you have to do? Whenever you are having a malignancy, before deciding the treatment, what else you have to do? Can you tell me? This is some of the fundamentals, basics. Yeah, yes, what?
Check the
Staging.
No.
Yeah, very good. Staging. You have to do staging. Yeah, now this patient, it has already spreaded to the axilla. Okay. The primary ulcer, what treatment you will do? Can you tell me? Somebody is having a growth like this. It has been proved by biopsy, it is squamous cell carcinoma. Okay, how will you treat it? Yes? Hello?
Firstly, we give the new adjuvant.
How will you treat it? Neoadjuvant? No. No, neoadjuvant is something that is, I talked about in carcinoma of the breast. You have to do neoadjuvant to downstage the disease. Now here I am asking you, what is the treatment actually? What surgery? In other words, what surgery you will do? Radical Radical excision means how much you will remove. That is what I am asking you. How much of the skin you will remove, the normal tissue? You have to, not
Surgical
only the
excision.
ulcer, you have to remove 2 centimeters all around. Okay, not only the length,
To 6.
not only the breadth, you have to remove
Yes.
you have to remove the depth also. So what you have to tell is 3-dimensional excision, 3D excision. Length, width and depth also 2 centimeter. Lengthwise 2 centimeter. Widthwise also 2 centimeter. Normal skin also you have to remove. Normal tissue. And depth also you have to remove more than 2 centimeter. Yeah? That is why it is called 3-dimensional excision. Okay, this is the treatment for the primary. What will you do for the lymph nodes? It is already spread to the axillary lymph node. What you will do for that? What will you do? You have to remove that lymph node also. Otherwise, there is no point in removing just the primary because it has already spread to the axillary lymph node. So what will you do? You have to do a surgery called radical axillary lymphadenectomy. Yeah? Whenever you are doing cancer surgery, you have to add a word radical. Okay, this you have to remember, radical hemicolectomy for carcinoma of the colon. So here it is radical axillary lymphadenectomy. Suppose, okay, your patient is having the same squamous cell carcinoma in the foot. You can see it in the second picture. So where this lymph node, where the lymph node will get enlarged for this foot ulcer, which group of lymph node will be enlarged? Can you tell me? It is not definitely axilla. Axilla only in the upper limb. Yeah, inguinal group. So what type of surgery you will do in inguinal lymph node enlargement? Can you tell me? Radical. There, upper limb, I told radical axillary lymphadenectomy. So in the lower limb, if it is inguinal, you can just guess and you can tell me, no? Radical inguinal lymphadenectomy. Yeah, that's all. Radical inguinal lymphadenectomy. That also you have to do. Of course, you have to give chemotherapy also for this thing. So now we are going to the next case. This is already the patient is having a burn scar. This is an old case of burns. Over that burn scar, this patient has developed a non-healing ulcer. What is this ulcer? Can you tell me? The special variant. Marjolin's ulcer. Very good. What is actually this Marjolin's ulcer? Can you tell me? What is it? Marjolin's ulcer is what? What malignancy? Which type of ulcer? Yeah, it is a variant of squamous cell carcinoma. Agree. So how it differs from the actual squamous cell carcinoma? What is the difference between Marjolin's ulcer and squamous cell carcinoma? This is squamous cell only, but there is some difference.
Rarely lymphatic.
Yeah, there is no lymphatic spread. There is no lymphatic spread. Why? Already the lymphatics have been destroyed by the burn scar. As long as this ulcer is confined to the bone, to the burn scar, you won't get any lymphatic spread. But the moment this ulcer is invading the normal skin, okay, it will start spreading through the lymphatics. Okay, as long as this ulcer, Marjolin's, is confined to the burn scar, there won't be any lymphatic spread. So you need not do any radical lymphadenectomy. Apart from removing the ulcer, the same 3-dimensional excision that you have to do, because basically this is also a squamous cell carcinoma. Okay, this is the difference between the actual squamous cell carcinoma and the Marjolin's ulcer. This you have to remember. Okay, now we are going to the third type of skin carcinoma. It is, you are seeing a small ulcer over the forehead. Okay, this is the block coloration is also there. Not that much of block, but the wound edge is raised and beaded appearance. So what is your diagnosis? Raised and beaded.
Basal
Also,
Yeah,
cell
basal
carcinoma.
cell carcinoma. What is the other name for basal cell carcinoma?
Rodent cell
Rodent
cell.
Rodent. Why it is called rodent ulcer? Why it is called rodent? Do you know any rodent? Can you name some rodent?
Rat, rabbit,
Yeah, rat, rabbit and all. Okay, it will burrow through the ground. Yeah, that is why it is called rodent. Okay. Okay, squamous cell carcinoma. It will never spread through the lymphatics, never spread through the blood vessel also. It is only the local invasion. That is why in which people it is very common, or in which continent this is very common. This basal cell carcinoma is very common in one particular
Southeast-
continent. What is that continent?
Caucasian.
Yeah, which continent? Yeah,
Japan,
it is common in, no, not in Japan. That is not only a continent, that is that
Southeast
particular
Asia.
continent, that particular continent is a nation also. One nation is one
Asia.
continent. What is that?
It
One
is-
nation, one continent. What is
Australia.
that?
Australia.
Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. No, Australia. Australia, we are having plenty of white people. They are exposed to a lot of sunshine also. Whereas in Europe and America, okay, there are also a lot of white people, but there is not much of sunshine there. So they are more prone to develop this basal cell carcinoma. So it is occurring commonly over the face, the line joining the angle of the mouth to your ear lobule. You have to join a line, these two areas. So above this area, it is very common. That is what you are seeing here. What type of edge you will have in basal cell carcinoma? You told already. Raised and beaded. So what is the treatment for this?
Invert.
Yeah, what is the treatment?
Incision.
What excision? I told.
Surgical.
What said? No, 3D excision. Very good. Okay, you had to do. Will you do lymphadenectomy?
No.
No.
Yes or no?
No.
You need not do lymphadenectomy because there is no lymphatic spread. But the
Oh.
problem is this is over the face. Suppose if it is over the cheek, you have to remove a large area. After that, how will you cover that dry area? Because it is over the face, no, you cannot cover your face.
No.
That looks very ugly. How will you cover that area? Will you put skin graft or what? You had to put what is called skin flap, not skin graft. Over the cheek, you have to put you can take
Oh,
the
skin flap.
skin flap. You can take a skin flap from the forehead, okay, and you can rotate it, and you can put the skin flap over the raw area over the cheek. Yeah, this is what we used to do. Rotational forehead flap. That you can do. Okay, coming to the final skin cancer, it is black color. Okay, what is this cancer? Can you tell me?
basal cell,
No. Malignant melanoma.
Melanoma.
Malignant melanoma. So this is over the foot. Here you are seeing over the mandible also. Okay, malignant melanoma. All are malignant melanoma also. So this is in a female patient. You are seeing in between. This is the primary. You are seeing the primary in the upper part of the thigh. The secondary will be where? What is this area? You are seeing plenty of lymph node here. What is this group of lymph nodes called? What is this area?
Inguinal lymph
Yeah, inguinal lymph node. So in between also you will have what is called satellite lymph node. In between the primary and the secondary areas, you can have lot of lymph nodes also. There are 5 types of this malignant melanoma. Malignant melanoma, I have to yet to make a video. I will make a video on malignant melanoma. This all of you should know. All skin cancers, I will make, I think, one video on basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell, basal cell, and malignant melanoma. I have yet to make a video on this. Okay, what is the treatment for this? Can you tell me the same treatment like squamous cell? What is the treatment?
3D excision.
3D excision. What will you do to the inguinal lymph nodes?
Radical inguinal lymphadenectomy.
Radical inguinal lymphadenectomy. Okay. Yesterday, when I was talking about the sentinel lymph node biopsy, I told you in two other pathologies also, we will do the sentinel lymph node dissection. I told you yesterday. What are those two pathologies? Can you tell me? Yesterday, when I was talking about the CA breast sentinel lymph node biopsy, I told you in two other pathologies also we do sentinel lymph node biopsy. What are those two pathologies? Can you tell me?
Penile cancer.
Penile cancer and malignant melanoma. See, this is malignant melanoma. Here also, if you are in doubt, if you are not seeing enough inguinal lymph node, you are seeing one or two, but it is doubtful whether this enlargement is because of the secondary or just infection. Then you can take that first lymph node, send it for frozen section. Here also you can do sentinel lymph node biopsy. Okay. Now we are going to a special type of ulcer. Example of necrotizing fasciitis. Two types of skin ulcer or skin gangrene you are seeing here. Here you are seeing in a male patient, the whole scrotum is gangrenous. What is this gangrene? This is an example. Phoneus gangrene. Very good. Phoneus gangrene. And here, over the laparotomy wound, the whole skin is gangrenous. They did a laparotomy. Okay, over that laparotomy wound, the patient developed a very big ulcer. So what is this? Is also necrotizing fasciitis. What is this gangrene? Melanese synergistic ulcer. Very good. So both are necrotizing fasciitis. Okay. Necrotizing fasciitis, you have to do radical wound debridement. You have to remove all the dead tissue. And after then you have to give plenty of antibiotics. Then once the infection is settled, treated completely, if there is no infection in the raw area, then you can even put a skin graft over this. Yeah, this also I made a video. So today I'll be sharing diabetic ulcer video, the decubitus ulcer, and the necrotizing fasciitis. All these videos I will share with you today. Yeah, you just go through it. I could have shared it yesterday itself. I forgot it totally. Okay, finally, I think we have finished all the ulcers. This is the dressing you have to do in ulcer. So this I will teach you. I'm not going to ask you anything. The first thing you have to do is you have to use a normal saline to clean the ulcer. This is the first thing you have to wash the ulcer. The second thing you have to use is the hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide, why you are washing hydrogen? Why you are washing the ulcer with hydrogen peroxide? Can you tell me? If anybody have you seen, if you pour the hydrogen peroxide over the ulcer, what will happen?
It will bubble up.
Yeah, you can see a lot of bubbles. If bubbles is coming in a liquid, what is that? Some gas is releasing. Okay, what gas is releasing if you are pouring hydrogen peroxide over the wound? Yes?
Oxygen.
Yeah, okay, exactly. It is oxygen. What type of oxygen? Vessel variety. Nascent oxygen. Nascent oxygen. Suppose if nascent oxygen is released in the wound, which type of organism cannot survive there? Can you tell me?
Anaerobic.
Yeah, anaerobic organism. You need not give any antibiotic. If you are pouring the hydrogen peroxide over the dirty wound, okay, all the anaerobic organism there in the wound will be killed. Easily you can kill all the anaerobic organism, and that is why we are using this hydrogen peroxide. So this hydrogen peroxide will release nascent oxygen. This you have to remember. So after cleaning the wound with normal saline and hydrogen peroxide, the third thing you have to use is called U-Sol. This blue color bottle is U-Sol. What is U-Sol? I think I told you. What is
Edinburgh
USOL?
University
Yeah,
solution.
very
Edinburgh
good.
University.
Very good. Edinburgh University solution. So what is it? What is the chemical content in USOL? This also I told you the other day. Sodium hypochlorite. Sodium hypochlorite. This is a detergent. Detergent means it will clean the wound. So what we are doing for diabetic ulcer, you are seeing a patient with diabetic ulcer, diabetic foot. What you have to do, you have to take a bowl. In that bowl, you have to put this USOL in that, and then you have to ask the patient to immerse the foot in this USOL. This is called USOL bath. So all diabetic patients, have you seen in Manipal? Because you might have seen a lot of diabetic foot in India, in Manipal campus. Have you seen any patients there with this USOL bath? India, you can see a lot of this diabetic foot. Yeah, all over the world, you can see at least in any given time, at least 1 or 2 patients will be having this USOL bath. We used to do it twice a day. You have to immerse the foot in this USOL bath. Yeah, this is what is called USOL bath. And finally, okay, you have to clean it with ioprep. Yeah, povidone iodine, and you can soak your gas with the ioprep, and you can do the dressing, wet dressing. Yeah, you can do for ulcer, you have to do only wet dressing. Don't do dry dressing, because if you are using a dry dressing for an ulcer, the dressing material will stick to the ulcer, and then when you want to change the dressing, it will be very painful. So whenever you are doing a dressing for an ulcer, it is better to do a moist dressing. Yeah, you have to wet the dressing, the gas piece and whatever you are using, wet it with the ioprep, and then you have to do the dressing. Okay, now we have finished the ulcer. We are going to the sinus. Okay, it is already 1 hour. Okay, can you sinus as well as the fistula, both we will finish. What is a sinus and what is a fistula? You are seeing 2 pictures. The first thing is sinus. The second thing is a fistula. Can you define a sinus, please? Yes. What is a sinus? This is a blind tract. Yeah, it is ending blindly. Okay. What is a fistula? This is connection between 2 epithelial surface. This may be external or this may be internal. Internal to external or internal to internal. Yeah. The thing is, there should be 2 epithelial surfaces. That's all. Yeah, that is what is called fistula. Okay, we will go to that. Here you are seeing something in the neck. Can you tell me the diagnosis? Because you are seeing lot of lymph node enlargement in the neck. And in the second picture, you are seeing a sinus. From that, okay, some clear discharge you are seeing. And this is having an undermined edge also. So what is it?
Tubercular sinus.
Tubercular sinus. Can you tell me what are the 4 stages of tuberculous adenitis? I told you. Can you tell me? Hello. Adenitis, periadenitis, and then what?
Mating of lymph nodes.
Mating lymph nodes. Very good. And then?
Cold
abscess.
Cold abscess. And then?
Abscess.
Collar stud abscess. And finally?
Sinus formation.
Okay, right. What is the treatment for this tuberculous ulcer? Will you just keep giving antibiotic and dressing, and what else you have to do?
Anti-tubercular drug.
Yeah, you must give anti-tuberculous. Otherwise, this sinus is not going to heal. Suppose if your patient is having a cold abscess, how will you treat? Will you do IND?
Non-dependent incision.
Non-dependent, very good. Non-dependent incision you can do, or otherwise you can just aspirate it. The main thing is you have to give anti-tuberculous treatment. You can aspirate it. You need not do IND at all for cold abscess. Okay, good. So here you are seeing another type of sinus. Here, what you are seeing here is the central in the natal. This is the back over the sacrum. Exactly in the natal cleft, you are seeing this one, the central one. This is a primary sinus or the opening, congenital one. And then they are developing sinus over the lateral aspect. Here, you are seeing 2 more sinuses. So what is this sinus called? What is the diagnosis? Yes? What is the diagnosis? Oh, don't know. I asked you to read about it. No, pilonidal sinus.
Pilonidal sinus.
Pilonidal. Okay, usually these patients will be having a congenital opening. Through that, all the hair will go into that. Okay, it will be sucked into that. And then that will form a
Oh, the G pulse.
granulation tissue and then abscess also. And all these abscess will come through the lateral sinuses. So this is called pilonidal. Pilo means hair. Nidus means it is hidden. Pilonidal sinus. Hair is hidden inside this cavity and lot of pus also will form. This is a big problem. So you have to, in the second picture, okay, sorry. Here you are seeing the surgery. This is a very deep one. So you have to excise it up to the sacral fascia. Are you able to see that white structure, glistening structure? That is sacral fascia. We have gone up to the bone. Okay, you have to dissect this deep in case of pilonidal sinus. Okay, after that, okay, you have to wash this area, remove the pus, remove all the hair balls there inside. You have to remove everything, wash that area, and then you have to close it in as many layers as possible. Otherwise, the wound will easily, it will gap. What important post-op instruction you have to, after surgery, the patient should not lie down on supine position. Otherwise, okay, if they are lying on supine position, there is lot of pressure over the sutured wound. The wound may gap. You have to ask the patient either to lie down on left lateral or right lateral or even in prone position, but never in supine position. The wound will gap. Okay, that is the treatment for pilonidal sinus, and there is so many other flap cover, so many other things are also there. Okay, I will share this video also, pilonidal sinus also with you. Okay, today. And this is a patient, a boy, developing a sinus over the chin here. What is this? He is developing a chin. Yeah, if you take an X-ray, okay, you are seeing a root abscess. Root abscess is the root of the teeth, that particular incisor teeth that is coming here and opening as a sinus. So this we need not bother. You refer the patient to a dental surgeon because the basic cause for this median mental sinus. This is called median mental sinus. This you have to refer to the dental surgeon. They have to extract that particular tooth. Yeah, and here you are seeing a sinus over the mandible. Through the sinus, you are seeing some small bony spicules are coming out. So what is your diagnosis in this case? It is this sinus is attached to the underlying mandible. Yes, can you tell me? This is osteomyelitis of the mandible. That is why bony spicules are coming out. Okay. Coming to the next case, you are seeing a sinus over the middle of the thigh. Middle of the thigh. If you take a X-ray, what you are seeing here in the X-ray, now you can tell. Somebody told in the beginning itself. What is the dead bone tissue is called what? I ask you.
Sequestrum.
Yeah, this is what you are seeing here. Sequestrum, involucrum, all these things you are seeing here. So what is the treatment for the, the osteomyelitis? Here you are seeing the actual surgery. They've made over this, you are seeing the first picture. Okay, over the sinus, make an incision. Yeah, in the thigh, upper part of the thigh. What you are seeing beneath is the femur. In the femur, you are seeing a punch out. They have made an opening in the bone, femur, and they removed that bony dead tissue. Yeah, that is the sequestrum they have removed. And then you have to do what is called saucerization of that bone. That also you have to do. Then you can close the wound. So this is sequestrectomy. That is the treatment for, see, here you are seeing the sequestrum. and involucrum and the sinus tract. Usually, the patient will be discharging some bony spicules also will be coming. The dead bone tissue, no, that bone bits of bones also will be coming up. Okay, this is another patient. Okay, I think I will finish in another 10 minutes. So this is another patient with multiple sinuses over the foot. The patient is a farmer. He is walking barefooted, not wearing any footwear. He is walking barefootedly over his lands because he is a farmer, and he developed multiple sinuses over the ankle joint. So what is your diagnosis? And these sinuses are discharging yellow color granules. Can you tell me now diagnosis?
Actinomycosis.
Actinomycosis. Very good. Actinomycosis, they discharge these yellow color grains. Okay. What is the causative organism for actinomycosis? Actinomycosis Israeli. Probably this is very common in Israel. Actinomycosis Israeli. There is another variant called Majura mycosis. Majura means there is a place called Madurai in South India, from where in this place only I did all my MBBS and then the MCH also I did from Madurai Medical College. So in that area, that particular this actinomycosis is very common. That is called Majura mycosis. But the granules, no, that yellow color granules, it is not yellow color granules, it is black color granules. I have seen plenty of cases, Majura mycosis in Madurai. Even now, that is the endemic area. So what is the treatment for these multiple sinuses? What will you do? You have to give one antibiotic which was almost abandoned. What antibiotic we are not using nowadays, which was very famous when it was invented. What is that antibiotic? Penicillin. Penicillin, even today, crystalline penicillin, you have to give for this condition. But if the bone is already destroyed, you have to take an X-ray, of course. If the bone is already destroyed, if you start giving, when the patient has come to you in the early stages with only very few sinuses, you can control it by giving crystalline penicillin. Suppose if the patient is coming to you very late, already all the underlying bones are destroyed, then you cannot do anything. You can do only amputation, below knee amputation. Okay, this is another small baby. This baby is having a small sinus in front of the ear. What is this? What is your diagnosis? Preauricular sinus. Yeah, preauricular sinus. This is a congenital problem. You might have seen in the general population, some of the people may be having this sinus. You need not do anything unless it is giving you problem. You can just ignore it. But if they are developing problem, if there is pus discharge, then you have to intervene. If the patient is having pus discharge, okay, you have to treat it with antibiotic. Then what you have to do, when once the infection has subsided, then you can do what is called the excision. This is the surgery. You are seeing it in the second picture, but you may not understand what it is. Okay, I will tell you. You have to make a L-shaped incision, not the regular L. You have to make it, but the problem is I cannot show you properly here. Okay, you have to make a inverted L-shaped thing, and you have to develop that skin flap. And just beneath the skin, you will see a gland. That gland also you have to remove. Yeah, and then you can put again. You can put back, because this is a pediatric problem. I have done plenty of preauricular sinus excision. That is why, basically I am a pediatric surgeon. I've done plenty of preauricular sinus excision. That is why I'm telling you this surgery I have done quite a number of times. Okay, numerous times. Okay, you have to exercise this only if it is symptomatic. Otherwise, just ignore it. It's not going to give you any problem. This is preauricular sinus. Okay, this is another sinus. You are seeing it in the lower part of the anterior neck. What is your diagnosis? This is a congenital problem.
Bronchial sinus.
Yeah, bronchial sinus. Okay, or bronchial fistula. The correct terminology is bronchial. Is it BRO or BRA? What is the spelling?
BRA.
BRA, not BRO. Yeah, bronchial fistula. Okay. What is the investigation you are seeing here in this picture? Yeah, tell me. What is the investigation? You are barium. It is not barium meal. Sorry, they are injecting some dye in this fistula, and then they are taking this thing. This is fistulogram. You have to inject the dye in this fistula. Then you have to take the other end will go into the tonsillar fossa. The one end is here. The another end, it will go through the bifurcation of the carotid artery. It will go and end in the near the tonsillar fossa in the throat. So what you have to do? You are seeing the surgery here. Are you able to see the surgery? They are excising the whole tract. Are you able to see the tract? You have to make not just one incision. One incision you have to begin the lower down where there is fistula. Then you have to mobilize that fistula.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to mobilize that fistula. Then you have to make another incision above. This is called step ladder incision. Where else I was talking about step ladder? Hello. Small bowel obstruction, step ladder pattern. Yes or no? So you have to be very careful. You have to, your dissection should be, you have to be, yeah, you have to be very near to the tract. Don't go away from the tract. Okay. You should not injure. So many vital organs are there in the neck. You should not injure it. This is called just excision of the fistula. Okay. Okay. I think still some more is there. This is multiple fistula here. This is what is called fistula in ano. This is a complication after perianal abscess. So are you able to see? Maybe you may not be able to see it properly. There is one probe, they are putting it inside. This is the perianal area and it is coming inside the anal opening. And they are putting a probe, metal probe. And over that skin, you have to incise. This is called fistulotomy. So this fistula may be a single fistula, very easy to treat. If it is multiple fistula, then you have to think of two conditions. The cause may be either Crohn's disease or tuberculosis. So if it is Crohn's or tuberculosis, if it is tuberculosis, you have to give anti-tuberculous treatment. Otherwise, it won't heal. If it is Crohn's also, you have to treat the Crohn's disease, not just fistulotomy alone. And yeah, this is another, oh, so many are coming. This is another fistula where it is over the anterior abdominal wall. You are seeing some discharge, but you are seeing some yellowish stuff also. So what is your diagnosis? Yellow stuff is, okay, fecal matter. So what is this fistula? This is fecal fistula, or this is also known as enterocutaneous fistula. Yeah, after appendicectomy also this can happen. Okay, there is a connection between the inside bowel and the skin. Okay, so that the fecal matter is coming out. So if there is no distal obstruction, you need not do anything. As long as there is no distal obstruction, naturally it will automatically get closed. But if there is any distal obstruction, then you have to treat the distal obstruction. Otherwise, it won't heal. But in this picture, you are seeing lot of white stuff around the wound. What is that white stuff they have applied? They have applied something for to prevent the wound irritation. I mean, the skin irritation. This is nothing but zinc oxide cream. Zinc oxide cream they have applied. Enterocutaneous fistula is also one of the important topics for postgraduates in surgery, not for undergraduates. Enterocutaneous fistula, you can see one of the complications for many of the GI surgery. Enterocutaneous fistula or fecal fistula. I think this is the last case scenario. This is a 1-day-old baby. This is one of my cases. 1-day-old baby. This baby was brought to me or sent to me by the pediatrician who did the neonatal resuscitation. Baby was having excessive saliva. See in the mouth you can see baby is putting out excessive saliva, and baby is also having little bit of respiratory distress. So what he sent me, he took a X-ray also. He put a Ryle's tube or nasogastric tube or feeding tube inside. You can see the feeding tube. It is not going into the stomach. Okay, it is getting stopped in the upper part of the chest and it is getting curved also. So what is your diagnosis? It is not going into the esophagus. So what is your diagnosis? Yeah, tracheoesophageal fistula. Okay, this is a case of esophageal atresia with tracheoesophageal fistula. Very good. And you are seeing, I think this is too much for you. You are seeing a gas bubble also in the stomach. So there is a fistula. Tracheoesophageal fistula, 1-day-old baby. And this baby I operated. You are seeing this baby here. This is in the post-operative ward in the neonatal intensive care unit or in the NICU. You are seeing this baby has been ventilated, connected to the ventilator. That blue gadget you are seeing above the baby is the ventilator. That ventilator, this I did some, I think how many years now? This I did it in 2001. Yeah, so many years, almost 20 years. Yeah. So this I have connected to the baby. See, so many tubes around the baby. Yeah. But this is still, even today, it is one of the challenging problem in pediatric surgery. Okay, this also, okay, now this also I will try to share. So many things I don't want to share. But this tracheoesophageal fistula is a specialized thing only for pediatric surgeons, definitely not for undergraduate students. This is for postgraduates. Okay. Okay, this is some of the saying. Don't aim success if you want it. Just do what you love. Yeah, and believe in that. It will come naturally to you. The success will come to you naturally if you do what you love. Yeah, that's all. Okay, another important saying. Okay. Sleep 8 hours, work 8 hours. Make sure that they are not the same hours. Don't sleep when you are supposed to work and don't work when you are supposed to sleep. Yeah? Okay, thank you. I'm coming there. Be there. Yeah, who is that?